Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Sri Suryanti with NPM 2241110 from Management Class 22B. Here I will explain the material rights and obligations of taxpayers in Indonesia and obligations that must be fulfilled by taxpayers. Taxpayers, WP, are individuals or entities who are legally required to comply with various tax provisions in Indonesia. They have rights and obligations which are regulated in statutory provisions, in particular based on Law No. 28 of 2007 concerning general provisions and tax procedures. The following is a more in-depth description of the rights and obligations of taxpayers in Indonesia. Rights of taxpayers. Taxpayers have several rights guaranteed by law, including right to overpayment of tax. Taxpayers have the right to submit a request to get a refund of the tax overpayment they have made. If the amount of tax paid is greater than what it should be, taxpayers can request a refund of the funds through the tax overpayment or refund mechanism. Right to confidentiality of information. All personal information and documents provided by taxpayers to the Directorate General of Taxes, DJP, are guaranteed confidentiality by law. DJP is not permitted to disclose WP information to third parties without the WP's consent or without valid legal reasons. Right to submit a request for postponement or installment payment. In certain situations, taxpayers have the right to apply for a postponement or installment of tax payments. This right allows taxpayers to adjust payment schedules according to their financial conditions, while still meeting the specified requirements. Right to extend the time for submission of tax returns, SPT. Taxpayers can request an extension of time to submit their annual tax return, SPT, if they feel they have not been able to complete their tax reporting within the specified time. However, this application must be submitted with clear reasons before the specified time limit. Right to file objections and appeals. If the taxpayer is dissatisfied or disagrees with the tax assessment issued by the DJP, the taxpayer has the right to submit an objection to the head of the Tax Services Office. If the objection is not accepted, the taxpayer still has the right to appeal to the tax court to obtain a fairer decision. The right to receive guidance and direction. Taxpayers have the right to receive guidance and direction from the DJP to better understand their tax procedures and obligations. This includes socializing the latest regulations and explaining the implementation of tax rights and obligations in a transparent manner. Obligations that must be fulfilled by taxpayers. Apart from rights, taxpayers also have several obligations that must be complied with. Obligation to register. Every taxpayer is required to register at the Tax Service Office to obtain a Taxpayer Identification Number, NPWP. NPWP functions as the official identity of taxpayers in all tax administration activities and must be used in every tax reporting or payment. Obligation to report tax payments. After paying tax, taxpayers are required to report their tax obligations via an annual tax return, annual SPT, and monthly tax return, monthly SPT, according to the type of tax imposed. This reporting must include complete information regarding payments made by the taxpayer. Obligation to provide accurate and correct information. Taxpayers are required to provide accurate and relevant data and documents regarding income, bookkeeping and other matters related to tax obligations. This information must be stored properly for at least 10 years for inspection purposes if necessary. Obligation to comply with tax audits. In the event that the Directorate General of Taxes conducts an audit, the taxpayer is obliged to provide the requested information or data and attend the summons issued by the DJP. Taxpayers must be cooperative during the audit process to ensure compliance with applicable tax regulations. Obligation to pay taxes. Taxpayers are required to pay taxes according to applicable regulations, such as income tax, PPH, value-added tax, VAT, and other relevant taxes. Tax payments are made according to the schedule and amount determined based on tax regulations. Obligation to register as a taxpayer. Registering yourself as a taxpayer, WP, is an important first step in fulfilling your tax obligations in Indonesia. The following is a detailed explanation of this obligation. Importance of registration. Taxpayer registration aims to obtain a taxpayer identification number, NPWP, which is the official identity for every taxpayer in tax administration. NPWP is required for various purposes, including management of business permits, applying for credit at the bank, tax reporting, NPWP registration process. NPWP registration can be done in two ways, offline and online. Offline registration. To register offline, the steps you need to follow are: visit the Tax Service Office, KPP, come to the nearest KPP with the required documents. Prepare documents. For individual taxpayers, the documents required include photocopies of KTP or passport, as well as other documents that are relevant if running a business. Fill in the registration form. Take the form from the officer and fill it in correctly. Submit files. Once all the files are complete, submit them to the registration officer and keep the receipt as proof of registration. 2. Online registration. For online registration, here are the steps. Access the e-registration site. Visit the official website of the Directorate General of Taxes to register. Create an account. Register by filling in the required data such as name and email address. Account activation. Follow the instructions in the activation email to activate the account. Fill registration form. Log in and fill the registration form with accurate information. Submit form. Once all data is filled in, submit the form electronically. Print documents. Print forms and temporary registered certificates. Send files to KPP. Send the signed documents along with other files to KPP within 14 days after sending the form electronically. Required documents. Documents that must be prepared for NPWP registration include: individual taxpayers, photocopy of KTP or passport, business permit documents if running a business, corporate taxpayers, photocopy of company deed of establishment. Other documents according to applicable provisions.
That's all my explanation of the material. I hope it's easy to understand. Thank you. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.